What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Cinema Essentials. This episode is called The Rat, not only referring to an ordinary rodent, but also because Tweener keeps feeding information about what Bellick and Scofield are up to, like an informant rat. That's why they gave it this title. Alright, let's get started with Season 1, Episode 14. I'm your host, Theo. Teabag, who's been sentenced to years in prison, gets caught planning a prison break. So adding another murder charge on top wouldn't be a problem. He's already got the death penalty signed and sealed. Meanwhile, in the infirmary, Lincoln Burrows is also losing it, stabbing himself with a toothbrush handle like he's gone crazy. When Sara comes back into the infirmary, she sits by the bed and asks if he's okay. He says he's feeling nauseous and doesn't want to throw up on the floor, so he went to the drain to vomit. When a guard arrives and sees Burrows without handcuffs, he says according to regulations, he needs to be cuffed, and chains him to the bed. Hearing the guards coming, Sucre's group hides in various spots around the room. A guard enters and while inspecting, discovers the broken pipe. He calls for backup and leaves. As soon as the guard exits, DB Cooper says they need to get back immediately. He asks Sucre for the rope, ties it under the stage, and they all escape down through the hole. Unfortunately, by the time the guards return to search the room again, almost everyone has made it back into the underground pipe system. On the way back from the yard, Bellick looks toward the break room and notices the tiles aren't stuck yet. He asks someone nearby, who says the water hasn't dried yet, so the pie crew is waiting. Curious about why it's taking so long, Bellick walks back toward the guard break room and tries to open the door, but it won't budge. At that moment, Sucre's team is climbing back into the room one by one through the hole. When he forces the door open, he asks, "What have you guys been doing this whole time? The water's not dry, work's not done," and tells all the lazy bums to get back to their cells, then leaves. Only after going outside does he notice one person is missing. He comes back in and asks where DB Cooper is. DB Cooper, stuck in the hole, awkwardly emerges into the room and says he was tying his shoelaces so the boss didn't see him. "I'm here." The guard tells everyone to get back, so they shuffle back to their cells with tiny steps. By the time Sucre's group returns to their cell, Lincoln Burrows is still handcuffed to the infirmary bed. Outside Fox River, various news outlets have gathered, and reporters ask the warden about Lincoln Burrows' execution scheduled for tomorrow morning. The warden says that carrying out executions is something no warden in the country wants to do. He won't comment on legal matters or clemency issues. As for what Lincoln Burrows is thinking right now, he says only God and Lincoln know that. He ends the press conference and goes back inside. The reporter mentions that Illinois has carried out executions since 1976, and Lincoln Burrows would be the 13th person executed. Watching this on TV with tears streaming down his face is LJ Burrows. Scofield is pacing around the room when Sucre tells him, "Son, I know you're worried. Let me tell you something, I'm not upset that the escape didn't work out. What about Lincoln's case? What are his lawyers doing that's special?" Scofield replies, "Nothing special yet. There's only one person who can stop this." Going to the infirmary, Scofield asks Sara, "Could I talk to my brother for about 5 minutes? Can you help me?" Sara goes to another room and explains to a guard, asking for visiting permission, but is told he can only meet during regular visiting hours. Scofield says, "Then please help with one thing, talk to the doctor's father, the mayor, or spend an hour talking with Burrows' lawyers. You'll see that Burrows is innocent," and asks for her assistance. Nick, Sara and Veronica arrive at the court clerk's office, requesting a court date to postpone the execution until they get permission to exhume and examine Terrence Steadman's body. They say they need about 15 minutes with the judge, and the clerk agrees to help. Sitting on a bench, Scofield and Sucre are talking when Teabag overhears Scofield promising to break him out of prison. Teabag interrupts, saying Scofield has made promises to many people. Sucre snaps back, "Don't you understand the situation? Shut your mouth and get out of here, or I'll punch you so hard you won't be able to eat for 5 days. Only then does Teabag leave. Whether he gets out of prison or not, it's lucky for Michael to have a friend like Sucre who stands firmly by his side. In our lives too, whether we're rich or poor, we all have friends like this." On the way back from the yard, D.B. Cooper walks with Scofield and mentions that 10 years ago, someone on death row didn't die immediately in the electric chair, just a small spark came out. It took about 3 weeks to prepare the whole process again. Scofield asks, if something goes wrong with a chair, do they get another 3 weeks? D.B. Cooper explains that executing someone isn't easy. They need new death warrants, medical clearances, etc. Just then, Tweener arrives asking what they're talking about. D.B. Cooper says nothing and continues walking. During the guard's break, Scofield says he's going inside. Sucre gets up from his bunk, saying he'll keep watch in the room. In the underground pipes, they place cookie bait, and when a mouse comes to eat, they gently catch it and put it in a bag. In the solitary confinement, Sara visits Lincoln and asks about his last meal, where he wants to walk, and how it feels to be restrained during execution. Lincoln asks if it's better to prepare in advance, and she says yes. When he asks about Michael, she says he's doing well and really wants to see him, but unfortunately can only meet during final visiting hours. Lincoln asks if she could take care of his little brother if something happens to him. Sara doesn't know what to say. Should she feel sad for this poor old man, or happy that she'll have Michael, who she's growing to love? The spinster Sara remains silent. When a guard walks by, Sucre stands firmly as lookout. Hearing a signal, he opens the grate and Scofield comes back into the cell. When Sucre asks what he was doing, Scofield doesn't answer and just pulls down the curtain they use for privacy. In Bellick's office, Tweener is lounging luxuriously, dipping his cookie in cold, sweet milk and eating it bite by bite. The taste. It's like a twice-divorced mom of 3 kids eating pork curry with an old junkie for dinner. After finishing, Bellick asks for some news. He says there's a black guy selling drugs inside, so he's been gathering solid information. Bellick takes away the hamburger Tweener is eating and says if Scofield was supposed to provide information but doesn't deliver any news, the burger and cookie cost $100, pay up or get sold to the big guys who work the fields at night until the debt is paid. Thinking about going to prison for unpaid debts and then having to sell drugs when he gets out, Tweener returns from the bathroom and says he overheard Scofield mention that if something goes wrong with the chair, his brother gets another 3 weeks. That's all the news he has, boss. Bellick says this news pays off the debt and kicks him out. 3 things you shouldn't do in prison. Be a snitch, collaborate with guards as an informant, or be someone's subordinate. Dear viewers, I seriously advise you never to try these things. Back to the story. With this news from Tweener, Bellick rushes to death row and checks the electric chair. Gary, the electrician, says everything's been tested and is working, but when Bellick asks him to test it again, the chair doesn't work. Bellick, Gary, and the electrician go down to the main room where the electrical panels are. In the switch box with connected fuses, they find a dead mouse. Oh God, give me strength. Give a man peace. Give me the courage to walk out bravely. Lincoln prays while leaning against the wall. The door opens and guards arrive for his haircut. When Lincoln asks not to be handcuffed, they allow it since it's his last day. In the courtroom, lawyers from both sides are arguing back and forth. Veronica's side presents evidence tampering, wrongful conviction, and witness murder, but the prosecution says no one named Paul Kellerman or Hale ever worked at the Secret Service. They have complete personnel records. Since Veronica's side cannot present admissible evidence in court, the judge says he'll consider what's been presented and give an answer within an hour. Gary asks if he's seen mice get in like this before. The electrician says they come for warmth. Mice can get through the smallest holes. Bellick says they need paperwork to replace the fuse. But this is about executing the guy who killed the vice president's brother. Replace it immediately. Only the 3 of them know about this situation. Not knowing the real circumstances, the electrician replaces the fuse. Bellick arrives and tells Scofield that Lincoln is being transferred to death row. Final visiting time is now available. Gary tests the electric chair by pulling the lever. 2,000 volts flow to the chair, causing lights throughout the prison to dim and brighten, which Sara notices while sitting in her office. In the visiting room, Scofield is waiting when Lincoln enters with guards. How are you, little brother? Looking good, though my head is shiny now. Does hair interfere with electrical conduction? They hug each other. Scofield talks about appeals, but Lincoln says, enough, little brother. Don't talk about upsetting things. Let's talk about happy memories from when we were kids and get through this. While LJ, Veronica, and Nick are talking, LJ says he wants to see his father. They tell him he can't go because there are cops watching everywhere. Then they hear a knock. It's Sara. When Veronica arrives at the visiting room, she hugs Lincoln and apologizes for not being able to bring LJ. She says she'll call him if he wants to talk on the phone. If you've ever talked to a father about to be executed within hours, or a dying father in a hospital, you'd understand the feelings. I don't think I need to describe what Lincoln and LJ are saying to each other. Sara, now knowing all the information, goes to her father's office with files, asking him to reconsider Lincoln's case one last time, then leaves. Lincoln is throwing chairs around his cell, shouting, "I didn't do it," when the warden arrives saying it's time to change clothes. After changing, as they're taking him out, a guard runs up, saying the mayor is on the phone. Everyone's hearts skip a beat as something unusual happened. But the warden says after reviewing the case, no grounds for clemency were found, so the execution will proceed as scheduled. While an innocent man is about to be executed on the other side, people are shamelessly saying thank you for doing your best for the country and party. These are Vice President Caroline Reynolds and Sara's father, the mayor. As the innocent man enters the execution chamber, those who tried their best but couldn't change anything are left speechless, saying their final goodbyes. This scene we're all watching together brings episode 14 to an end. This series will continue daily until the end, so please like and subscribe to the Cinema Essentials channel. Thank you all for watching till the end.